is the previous generation of prophets were the leaders. So the interesting dynamic here is during a crisis, the prophets are the leaders and the heroes are the foot soldiers. What happens during an awakening, which happens, 20 years later or so, the heroes are the moral standard bearers. They're the leaders. They're the people in government. And the prophets, which were the young baby boomers, are the crazies trying to push for the awakening. That dynamic switches back again for the subsequent crisis. So the crisis we're coming up to, the prophets have to play a real important role. Now the prophets, remember, are the baby boomers. They have to be the leaders of this whole thing. And there's a group of heroes that were born between 1984 and about 2004 or 2005. They're the new heroes. I think they're called the Millennium Generation, if I'm not mistaken. So the cycle repeats with the same players, almost. Just a different generation, but the same archetype. So we're moving in now to a crisis period, and it needs a catalyst to set it off. And then the prophet leaders will emerge, and they'll lead the heroes, the Millennium Generation, who are naturally willing to support. They're here to do that. They're team players. They're the perfect foot soldiers. And they'll be taking their orders from the prophets. Now, if you look at what we have in terms of leadership from the prophet generation, I mean, we've got Hillary Clinton, we've got, Newt Gingrich. We don't have any leaders that seem to be leading in the proper way, except for perhaps David Icke and his ilk. So it's real important that if you're awake and you're in that prophet generation, you really work to play a leadership role in what's coming down, because these crises, it's always a make or break situation. There's always a clear winner and there's always a clear loser, like in World War II. So there'll be a clear winner and a clear loser that'll come out of this. Now I'm afraid that to lose this one could end up with us being enslaved in a transhuman dystopian hell that H.G. Wells and Aldous Huxley are predicting. Or if we win, we'll be really going into the Dwapara Yoga. We'll have inherited all the technology that the breakaway civilization has kept for us, and we'll be well into the Dwapara Yoga, and it'll be a glorious time, but we have to win it. Now, I can tell you something else about this time. The prophets during this time see this opportunity as being their last ability to affect consciousness. They tried to do it in the 60s, but now this is their last gasp. So they're doing things like many of us in this generation are. We're doing anything we can to wake people up, to get them motivated, especially the Millennium Generation that has to throw this thing off. Now also, before we end this subject and go back to something else, let me tell you, I was involved in the awakening because I'm a boomer. I realize now that the awakening is vastly corrupted. After reading a manuscript called The Amazing But Mostly True Story of Laurel Canyon, and I realized that the powers that be, the cabal, played a big part in derailing what was a wonderful, kind of a holy peace movement that everybody was involved in the early 60s. By the late 60s, the cabal, through their influence of movies, drugs, and music, had made us the hippie generation. And we were no longer peaceniks, we were hippies. And they custom made the hippies with their ripped blue jeans and long hair and dope smoking ways, custom made them so they would be repugnant to the heroes, so that the heroes wouldn't work with them for the awakening, but would be really repulsed by them. So we've been manipulated in the past, but I would imagine that this awakening that's happening now, the crisis that's happening now, is being also manipulated. I mean, I know that we're being dumbed down with fluoride. They've been dumbed down the education system for 100 years now. We've been fed GMO foods. Our skies are filled with aluminum. So I know they've been working overtime to make this crisis less beneficial for us. Also, I think they've been giving us small crisis-like things to see how we react. And you know now, they must be worried about it because they're doing a massive amount of studies through the Department of State. It's going through Facebook. That just came out in the news. And they're doing a lot more studies of this, what they call social media, to find out what they need to do, how they can change the social media, and how the social media reacts, so that during the crisis, they can be one step ahead of us. So that's another cycle that we should be looking for as we go through this, how we look at time, flotilla of information. All right, just to finish this subject, I think we have a chance. We have a chance in the future. The crisis is not over, and we're still very much in the game. The globalist members, I think, are very worried because they really want to monitor everything we do. People are unpredictable. We're creative. In the age of Aquarius, people are unpredictable. They're creative. They're fast acting. There's great hope in the grander cycles. But the public has to wake up and realize what's going on and stand for humanity, not transhumanity. Yeah, my heart really sings when I think of finally defeating this bunch of Satan's criminals that are bent on taking our humanity away and making us robots for their pleasure. When they go away, we'll immediately inherit all their technology. So pain, suffering, disease will immediately vanish. There'll be no energy problems or the need to work at all. We'll be free to pursue what I think we're here to pursue the whole time during these Yuga cycles, and that's consciousness development. So I hope it was a little inspiring and not too devastating. Now it's time to sum up.
Okay, so let's review. But before we do, what a great job you did explaining all those models, and in particular this new model of, well, new to me, model of the saeculum.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and I wish I had all the time in the world to sit, and I wish I could keep someone's attention long enough, because it's a critical model right now. I mean, what we do right now and how we play these roles and how we can try to avoid being influenced by our overlords is going to determine everything. And by the way, the end of the crisis is 2025, so it'll all be over but the shouting that year.
Yeah, well, amazing. I think that really gives us a lot to go on. In a way, visualize it as a very grand cycle that will repeat itself, and so it does give us some inkling of what we can expect in the future, in a day and age where all bets are off. When you try to plan for the future, it's absolutely impossible.
And we're being predictive programmed into bad stuff.
Right. So the more we learn about that, the easier it will be for us to avoid being programmed.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, well, let's review. We started with a visit from the Justin Bieber School of Acting, demonstrating their many talents for our entertainment. We then learned of 3 conceptualizations of time: chaotic, linear, and cyclical. We talked a little about linear time and how it's being used by the inbred elite to funnel us into a dystopian future. We got to know Albert Pike, H.G. Wells, whose real name, by the way, is Eric Blair, and Aldous Huxley, and all their plans for us.
Bad plans.
We took a quick peek at the dawning of Aquarius and the setting sun of Pisces. Then we learned about the Yuga cycles and found that we are gradually approaching the galactic center in preparation for a new golden age.
Right, we're a few years out, but it's coming up.
But it's coming. At least we're on the way. We're on the upswing.
Or on the upswing.
We then looked at the fourth turning and the saeculum, and how we must wake up and shoulder the burden for our generation, or all could be lost. Not altogether good news.
No, it depends on how we use it now. If you're a prophet, and you're a baby boomer, and you're awake, tag, you're it.
Yeah.
You really need to get moving and do what you can, because the future of humanity could be in your hand. And also, you young millenniums, I know you're going to really have an instinct to come alive, triggered by some crisis. Let's make sure you're pushing toward humanity and not toward transhumanism, which is post-humanity.
Let's hope so. Well, as David Icke says, knowledge is never negative. Ignorance is. So, the more we know,
Better off.
the better off we'll all be. So, we hope you were entertained by these concepts and maybe inspired to set things right.
Hopefully.
Well, until next time, love and be nice to one another. See you on the flip side.
All right, do you want to say something about the website?
Oh yes, let me do that. As always on these podcasts, we put together our resources and links to get to them so that you can do your own research and delve further into these topics. So they will be there, and we post them on our blog, which is pineconeutopia.yolasite.com. And they'll be posted under the World Beyond Belief show notes. So do look those up if you feel inclined.
And if you look at also the talent that we use in producing these things is listed.
That's right. All these incredibly wonderful artists who provide our music tracks.
Like the Belgrade Dixieland Orchestra that you're listening to right now.
Yeah, so they'll all be there, and you can listen to more of their great music in your own time. Okay, so until next time, love and be nice to one another.